Hello to our community group leaders. This is the Teaching Series Extra for Sunday, July 29th, 2018, and this is the last message on our series in First Peter, Stranger Days. And we do live in a world that is upside down. We live in a world that has good and evil, and how we live as followers of Christ is important. It's important to our world, it's important to God. So I'll share this illustration on Sunday that my mentor, one of my seminary professors named Calvin Miller, always taught me that whether it's preaching a sermon or writing a book, whenever you communicate something, you have one clear statement. What are you trying to communicate? And you'll often hear me say in a message, hey, this is the one thing that's really important, or the one thing we're going to talk about today. So Peter does that in this book. Now he puts it at the end, and if you're not careful, you might miss it. In 1 Peter 5:12, he says, "This is the true grace of God, stand firm in it." And Peter mentions the word grace, I believe, 4 times in 1 Peter. But the entire letter can be summed up in that one line, that here is the grace of God. Stand firm in His grace. And we'll talk a little bit about what grace is on Sunday morning, try to give that a more specific definition. But it's good for now just to say that the world runs on grace. The world is not run on fairness. God does not look at the world with indifference. God gives grace, which means that He often gives us what we don't deserve, and He doesn't give us what we do deserve. God's world runs on grace. We stand firm in that grace. And here's where you as a community group leader and teacher can take some time and expound on that, because there are 2 names mentioned in this passage. 2 people who exemplified grace. Silvanus is one of them. Now, that name has been Latinized just a bit. We know him better as Silas. And you can look in the book of Acts and see some accounts of Silas's life, especially when he was in prison and singing during the night, how even in a bad situation he recalled God's grace. The name Mark is also mentioned here. Mark was a failure early in life, but we believe that one mistake does not define a person's entire life. And Mark would go from making a terrible mistake to being a gospel writer, that with clarity and conviction, he wrote an account of Jesus' life that we still use as a resource for our faith today. God's grace. And then just Peter himself. I mean, when Jesus needed him the most, Peter failed him the worst. But to realize that there was forgiveness, that there was restoration, that just because a person made a mistake doesn't mean that they're sidelined for the rest of their lives. God's world runs on grace. Your relationship with God runs on grace. Take the opportunity to teach that. Take the opportunity to celebrate that on Sunday, that we do not live as followers of Jesus. We do not live in a fear of judgment. We also do not have to be concerned that God is indifferent toward His world. He is gracious and kind, slow to anger, and abounding in love. May the Lord continue to bless you as you lead your community groups, and as always, it's my privilege to serve right alongside you in ministering God's grace in its various forms. May the Lord bless you today. Bye-bye.